Before he was warping reality with a giant flaming sun, before the moon started grinning down on his god-tier power, and before he was the strongest man on the planet, Benimaru Shinmon was just a kid. He grew up as an orphan in the heart of Asakusa, one of the oldest districts in Tokyo. But instead of being left to the streets and fading into irrelevance, Benimaru was chosen by none other than Hibachi Shinmon, the most feared and respected fire soldier in the region. This guy wasn't just a legend, he was him. For Hibachi, this adoption wasn't some warm, heartfelt, I shall protect you from this world-ass anime moment. Nah, Hibachi needed an heir. Someone to pass on the Shinmon name to, the fighting style, the legacy. And so what did Benimaru get? He got the smoke. Day in, day out, Hibachi drilled into him a deadly martial art combining swordplay with pyrokinesis. Benimaru had to prove that he had what it takes, or he truly would fade into irrelevance. However, Beni messed up a lot, especially when it came to the Sun Wheel, the move Hibachi was most proud of. You see, Benimaru could never quite get it right. He'd flare up too hard or not hard enough, he'd miss the timing or lose his focus, it wasn't big enough. Me too, Beni. Me too. But you see, what was worse was that every time he did fail, Hibachi would snap. He'd look at him as if Beni wasn't worthy of the Shinmon name, look at him as if he was still destined for irrelevance. And well, this hurt Beni. Not just physically, because Hibachi did not hold back on the punishments, that I can tell you for free, but it hurt deep down. See, Benimaru wanted to be better. He wanted to make his master proud and earn his name. But through all that pain and all that pressure and all that doubt, Benimaru still kept fighting. And not just in training, but in real life. As a kid, he was already going out with the fire brigade to face Infernals. Most people would be traumatized by that. But Benimaru, bro was used to day-to-day life with Hibachi Shinmon. What fear could a demon really strike into Beni's heart that was worse than that? The thing is though, Beni wasn't alone. Standing beside him was Conro, his ride or die, his lieutenant and the only man who could understand Hibachi's words and translate them into something Benimaru could understand. He was like the big brother who'd pass on all of his life experience down to you. He said the things that Hibachi couldn't, even if he wanted to. Things like how Benimaru had potential. Because even before the god level feats and the planet busting sun wheels and him becoming the strongest man in existence, Benimaru is still built different. Because fast forward a few years after the death of Hibachi, and the boy who once stared a life of irrelevancy in the eyes was now Captain Benimaru Shinmon, head of Company 7, King of Asakusa, God of Fire Force. Now, if you thought that that title made him more polite, nah. Bro showed up to the Tokyo captain's meeting, feet up, looking bored out of his mind whilst the Emperor walked in. Everyone else was praying, saluting, respecting the sun god, but Benimaru couldn't give a flying f***. And so when they ask him to cooperate with the other Fire Force squads in the search for the evangelist, he hits him with a, nah, I'm good. Straight up says that Company 7's gonna do their own thing, drops the mic, and gets out of there. And you know the best bit? Ain't nobody gonna stop him. Because Benimaru is an extremely rare kind of pyrokinetic. He is both second and third generation. That means he can not only manipulate flames around him like a second gen, but also generate them from his own body like a third. And such an insane combination is about as powerful as you can imagine. As when an Infernal appears in Asakusa, Benimaru grabs his Matoi and just lobs them. Every throw capable of destroying entire buildings. And you'd think that this was overkill, but to him it was just another Tuesday. Benimaru literally punches through the Infernal's core with his bare arm, honouring the death of a man who was once a proud Asakusa citizen. Thus they hold a funeral for him, a man named Kentaro. Benimaru then subsequently orders his squad to help rebuild the homes that were destroyed. There's no complaining about it, he just gets shit done. Because Asakusa isn't just his territory, it's his home. It's his people and his responsibility. He couldn't care less less about what any other company or what any other town or city thought. It was them against both God and the world. But that's when Beni sees Company 8, who to him were complete outsiders helping out with the rebuilding without even being asked. It was the moment something began to change for Beni. He started to realize that maybe, just maybe, working with others isn't such a bad thing. You see, to the people outside of Asakusa, he was some hot-headed thug with a god complex and zero manners. But to the people who depended on Beni, he was everything. He was destruction and safety sharing one singular body. He would happily destroy someone's home if it meant saving whose home it was. He'd happily kill you if you became an infernal to stop you causing destruction to your loved ones, but not without a proper funeral to go alongside it. Nonetheless, things go from chill to chaos real quick in Asakusa, as that's when White-Clad imposters sneak in, disguised as people from Company 8. They start stirring the pot, lighting fires, causing fights, making it look like the 8th are actually trying to turn innocent civilians into Infernals. Something Benimaru sees firsthand as he hears two members of Company 8 talking about igniting people like they did with Kentaro, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is all it took. Benimaru lost it. Like I said, to him, Asakusa was everything and vice versa. No matter who it was threatening his people, even if they are supposed to be an ally, it was shoot on sight. Even when Shinra tries to talk him out of it, Benimaru is like, nah, your talk no jutsu ain't gonna do shit to me, fam. Thus, it becomes Benimaru versus all of Company 8. It's a matchup which isn't fair in the slightest. I mean, seriously? I don't know about that. I mean, you could have 10 Company 8s and they ain't even gonna make Beni sweat.
He's out of line, but he's right.
Out of everyone, only Captain Obi manages to land a clean hit. But let's be real, I mean, that was a tickle at best on Beni. And so he just decides to end the fight. He goes for his final attack, the Nichirin. But then Conro collapses. His tephrosis, the illness caused by the overexertion of your pyrokinesis, kicks in. Therefore, Benimaru immediately drops the fight and rushes to his aid. And it's in this moment, when everything begins to calm down, that he actually listens to what people are gonna say. Because that's when eyewitnesses step in, revealing that the Company 8 Beni saw were the White-Clads in disguise, hoping to cause a bit of a ruckus. And a ruckus they caused indeed, as the town begins tearing itself apart. The citizens are fighting over each other in the streets, fires are everywhere, people don't know who to trust. And so for the first time in the entire series, Benimaru looks at Asakusa and realizes that they need him. So he flies to the highest point, rips apart the tower with fire, and shouts out over the whole town, commanding them to stop fighting and to find the fakes. And just like that, he had changed everything. That was the real strength of Beni, a strength he didn't even realize he possessed. But just as things seem under control, the true threat reveals itself. A demon infernal named Haran, one of the evangelist's elite. This dude was nightmare fuel, burning so hot he was warping the air around him and growing stronger by the second. Most captains would have called for backup, maybe even retreat, perhaps even pray. But Benimaru ain't about that. First he parries the attacks, all whilst looking bored. However, he knows full well that this thing could nuke the city if it wanted to. I mean, demon infernals are the strongest kind of infernal going, one that only a select few individuals have the ability to destroy. And so what does he do? He redirects the battlefield and takes it up to the sky and unleashes his Nichirin. But it's not enough. And so what does he do next? Crimson Moon. It's a move he picked up from Conro, an attack capable of annihilating anyone unlucky enough to be on the other end of it. It is one of the most powerful attacks in all of Fire Force, one capable of turning the sky itself red, and most importantly, it sounds amazing. Haran is quite simply just erased from existence. And so Benimaru had done it. He saved his town and proved that he was worthy of being their god. But unfortunately, he's not the MC. And so someone has to be taught this godlike power. And that is, of course, Arthur and Shinra. Unfortunately for them though, Benimaru doesn't just do training art. Instead, he told Shinra the cold, hard truth. He lost to Giovanni because he was blind. Literally, he couldn't feel the battlefield. He couldn't read the intent behind the attacks. And so Benimaru laid it out. If you want to survive, you've got to open your third eye and sense everything. No excuses. Thus, he tells them to come at him like they want to kill him. And still, he dodges everything like he's got Ultra Instinct active 24/7. Beni's not even breaking a sweat. It's kind of like how I feel after a sip of Game of Subs low-key. Just pure cracked focus. And if you click the link in the description, you get yourself a cheeky little discount. Something I think Shinra and Arthur could use, as Beni sees their effort but points out that what they're missing. Sure, the force is there, but there's no killer edge behind it. And so that's when Licht steps in with a big brain moment. He explains that Shinra's flames are absolutely cracked, yes, far stronger than most third gens, but they're all over the place. And so the key is to concentrate all that power into a single deadly burst. Benimaru, of course, makes this look easy, pulls it off instantly, demonstrating what it means to truly control power and not just throw it around. But Shinra, my man, is struggling. He's overthinking it, trying to replicate it with zero flow. Meanwhile, Arthur's just vibing like a feral knight with ADHD and somehow doing better. You've gotta love it. But that is when Shinra starts watching, like really clocking what's going on. He sees how Benimaru uses his hands. Not randomly, rather he's utilizing ancient hand signs passed down through Gengoku, which are how Benimaru commands his flames with surgical precision. And so, just like that, boom. Shinra mimics the move, unlocks the corner hand sign, and immediately ignites with a whole new level of heat. From there, Benimaru pushes him further, teaches him the tiger sign, a way to funnel flames directly into his legs. And the result of all this is that Shinra blasts off into the sky at lightning speed, nearly catching Benimaru off guard. In just a few hours, Beni took two gifted but unrefined fighters and pulled something lethal out of them. But there's more, as soon Benimaru would teach them the breath of life. It's an ability that helps you sense the life force of everyone around you, friends and enemies alike, making it the key to staying calm in a fight. It helps you clear your mind, letting you see through fake outs and distractions so that you can spot which attacks are actually meant to kill you, an ability which would be handy for what Beni would do next. Because as we know, bro doesn't care about religion or politics. He doesn't bow down to the Empire. And so when Joker pulls up and asks him to help raid the Holy Soul Temple, Benimaru basically just shrugs his shoulders and goes, yeah, it, why not? Together they storm the most sacred institution in the entire empire and start throwing hands immediately. And it's all going smoothly until Benimaru gets hit with a lethal poison, the kind strong enough to kill horses. And so he collapses on the spot for like 10 seconds. Then just casually gets up like he tripped over. How? Don't ask me. But the most accepted theory in the community is that his flames are so refined, so built different, that they literally burnt the toxins out of his bloodstream instantly. However, after blitzing through everyone, they find the place empty. Turns out the temple's leadership had already dipped underground. And so, like any reasonable person, Benimaru and Joker followed them into the Nether.
The Nether.
Down there, they're confronted by the shadow of the Holy Sun, and whilst Joker settles a score with their captain, Beni faces the rest. He notices via their breathing that they really do intend to take his life, whilst he's just there to have a scrap. Thus, he low-diffs them. But in the end, both Joker and Beni unlock some game-changing information, learning from Leonard Burns that Raffles I, the man the entire empire worships, was one day replaced by a fake double, just like what had happened in Asakusa. Beni also learns about the Adela links, something Shinra once had with Conro. Thus, when Company 8 come to talk to Conro about it, they found out that he was actually being stalked by the White-Clad. Thankfully, Bro one-shots his pursuer and avoids any serious injury. Much like Shinra, who is suddenly attacked by Benimaru as a test he passes with flying colours. Thus, he was ready for another training arc. Well, I say training, it was more like torture, as Beni was ready to teach Shinra hysterical strength. A power-up that removes the human brain's limiters and allows the user to tap into 100% of their ignition abilities compared to the usual 30% that the brain limits them to. But to learn this, they must surpass their limits and conquer death. Therefore, Benimaru orders them to do 100 sit-ups, 100 press-ups, 100... Wait, hang on a minute. Wrong series. Therefore, Benimaru tied Shinra and Arthur to posts and roasted them over fire, dragged them through the street behind a wagon, and dunked them upside down in water barrels, all while stripped and humiliated in front of the town. To be fair, Beni admitted that he didn't fully understand the purpose behind it, only that there had to be one. After all, Conroe once got him to do it in the past, and well, it worked out pretty well. From there, he made them fight him for 5 hours straight, pushing their bodies to the brink of collapse. They nearly passed out from oxygen loss, almost triggered tephrosis, yet Benimaru told them to keep their ass going, as that was the only way they could truly break their limits. And well, thanks to it, the two learn how to handle life and death, as Shinra taps into the hellfires of Adela, confronting his past and the fear of death. But Beni's favours towards Company 8 ain't over yet, because when Obi's ass gets captured and thrown into prison by the Tokyo Empire, who had joined forces with the White-Clad, who turned up the heat? Moonlight Mask. Now, why am I talking about this complete and utter rando? Well, I'm about to blow your mind. This guy is actually Benimaru Shinmon.
Wait.
I know. Now, why is this bozo pretending to be some random fluent in Japanese? Well, it's because he knows he can't actually make an enemy of the Empire. Not caring about them that much is one thing, but declaring war is another. Therefore, he flips his coat around and wears a mask that just so happens to have the exact same eyeball patterns as Beni and uses the exact same attacks. It was a simply flawless disguise. Nonetheless, Sharon, Haumea, and Inca all unleash an attack just for Beni to not even move. Not even a single muscle fiber in his body budged. Bro was simply too locked in. Well, it's because he was controlling all heat within a 4-meter radius. He was literally untouchable, even to some of these series' strongest characters. However, there was still one guy that made even Benimaru recognize his strength: Dragon. He was all that was stopping Beni soloing all the White-Clad there and then. Thus, after a quick little attack, Beni got out of there, saving Company 8 and Joker in the process. As that's where later on, Beni admits that he's not suited to be a leader, because whilst he wants to protect anyone weaker than him, he also wants to destroy anyone better, even to the point of contemplating about ripping the world to pieces. He really is just Saitama, isn't he? To which Joker admits that if everything Beni agrees with is right, and what he doesn't is wrong, then he sounds like a king already, something Conroe also said to him. Thus, Beni agrees that he will 100% be helping Company 8 in what promises to be a battle that finally brings an end to this war and ultimately change the world forever. But first, things get weird. The world had been shifting for months. Stone pillars rising, pyrokinetics dreaming of other lives, and Benimaru began seeing visions of his dead master. Not memories, dreams that felt real. As if Hibachi was legit calling to him across time and space. Which is when one day, standing at the edge of Sumida Bay, Benimaru senses it. Something was coming, and there he was, floating in the sky, is Hibachi Shinmon. But this time he's a little bit different. It's a doppelgänger, born from the fear, respect, and awe everyone still held for their legendary leader. And so this version of Hibachi was pure, unfiltered Adula power incarnate. Yet Benimaru doesn't hesitate, not even against his own father. And so what followed was the battle between the strongest fire soldier in history versus the strongest of today. Who will win? Well, things don't start well for Beni. For the first time, he is pushed back onto the defensive from the get-go, as his master's demonic doppelganger unleashes attack after attack trying to destroy Tokyo, which is when he unleashes it. An attack so powerful it could crush Beni's entire spirit. It's an attack not made of fire, but words. He calls Beni a total disappointment. He's as irrelevant as the day he first found him, despite all of his potential. He merely holds Conroe back and isn't fit to lead Asakusa, especially as he still can't perform a proper sun wheel, which is exactly why Hibachi has crawled all the way back out of hell. The two continue their scrap, splitting the clouds and causing the sea to lose control, but that was nothing. Their flames were so intense it began to draw Adela closer. Thus, it was about time Beni put an end to this. To put an end to a battle between Asakusa's gods. Hibachi unleashes an attack so great it causes a crater in the ocean just via the recoil. Nonetheless, even he can't help but smile at the sight of Beni completely unscathed. As Conro puts it, he's like a child of the heavens. But before he could land the killing blow, he bows to his former master and asks him to watch over his final attack, to prove that he's earned the Shinmon name after all. Beni's Nichirin creates a blinding light which can't help but make Hibachi admit how Beni looks like the Buddhist deity Akala himself. However, he'd only be even more surprised when he saw his foster son combine both the Nichirin and Akatsuki. An attack so strong Hibachi dies on the spot, proud of the monster he'd created. A moment which brings Conro to tears and the moon out to play? That's right, despite defeating Hibachi, the Great Cataclysm is still moments away. Thus, the world ain't looking too good. The only thing that could make it worse is if the doppelganger of Benimaru of all people showed up.
I shouldn't have said that.
Poor Kurano out here who only likes fighting the weak found himself up against the strongest of strong, the literal embodiment of the King of Destruction. Now, I simply cannot understate how powerful this version of Benimaru is. I mean, it's his doppelganger after all. And normal Beni is already perceived to be the strongest of them all. His entire townspeople view him as a literal god. As they themselves say, there is literally nobody capable of defeating their lord. But it's thoughts like that which allowed Beni's copy to unleash a Nichirin so powerful it engulfed the entire planet. Yet, the real Beni casually walks up and one-shots him like it was the easiest fight he has ever had the pleasure of taking part in. Let's just try and picture that for a second, alright? Imagine the literal strongest absolute peak of a human, to the point you revere them as a god. Just imagine how powerful that is, then forget it, because it is still not even close to how strong Benimaru really is. In fact, he is so much stronger than that he actually took offense that that was all his people thought of him. Unfortunately though, Beni died after that.
What?
Yep, RIP my guy, you were great. But it wasn't just him, everyone. The entire world had turned into a new sun following the Great Cataclysm. Well, that was until Shinra saved the day and not only rebuilt reality, but also revived everyone in the process, including Hibachi, which was nice of him. However, in doing this, Shinra also created the Soul Eater universe, a world without pyrokinesis. That's right, everyone's fire powers had been stripped away from them forever, meaning a lot of people who were powerful before weren't anymore. Those with powerful souls were now the ones who stood atop the food chain, with Captain Obi right up there, but with Benimaru still standing tall as the strongest man on the planet, rightfully earning his position as the World Heroes Force's Supreme Combat Commander. Now, if you enjoyed this video and would like to know more about peak fiction that is Fire Force, then make sure you click this video on your screen right now.